All I can say is fantastic.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
We are in very serious trouble.
Look, Jeffrey Dahmer was eating the shit out of niggas' heads.
He is the one.
So I just got finished watching season 2 of The Boys. You saw the season finale. It came out today. And man, I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on I guess the season as a whole, but particularly this finale, and just kind of say a lot of the things that I felt about it, and just kind of go over really what I think this season did well. This show, I think, just does characters very well. I think that, you know, throughout a lot of the series, but especially this season, I think that, you know, Homelander and Billy are like really neck and neck in terms of the like who my favorite character is, or what character I think is like the best in the show. I think both of those characters, they just keep getting more layered as it goes on, and you know, especially with this finale, I think that it really brings to light just a lot of what drives these characters. And I mean, they're so compelling, and they work well off of each other, and like they do a good job of kind of realizing the themes of the show. But you know, that's a discussion for a different day. You know, like that's, you know, there's so much to those characters, I think, and you know, they really deserve their own video. But you know, with the rest of the episode, I think that, you know, it really feels like a season finale, in that even if I hadn't known that this was the last episode of the season, I would surely feel like it was, because it just so completely ignites the next step. In a lot of ways, it completes several story arcs, um, but it also begins a lot of story arcs very clearly. You know, you have Homelander's son going on to the next step. You have Billy trying to deal with the death of Becca. You have Huey moving on, and kind of realizing that he doesn't feel like he really belongs with the boys. You know, you have all of these shifts, these changes, and it I think a lot of them work really well. Um, you know, this season as a whole has been quite a ride, right? Like I think all of the characters, I think this is a very character driven show. You know, I mean, obviously you have the gore and the violence, right? And you have like just it's very intense, but it's the characters that really drive this show. You know, you have Stormfront, who, though at times I think I feel like a little bit of what they were going for was kind of not necessarily too overt. Like it's not necessarily that it lacked subtlety. I mean, it kind of did, but I don't think that subtlety is like an issue in The Boys, because I don't think it's meant to be a subtle show. Um, the Boys is, you know, some people will be like, oh, she was too overtly a Nazi, right? But to me, The Boys has always been a show that is very much about satire, right? It is like you have Homelander, a man who is clearly a parody of Superman, right? It's not really about, now, I mean, he's not like a complete parody in the sense that he's very different. He's not just making fun of Superman, right? I mean, it's clearly a reference to him, but I think that he's different in so many ways, and he is his own character. I don't think that he needs Superman to exist for him to work as a character. Superman himself doesn't need to exist, just the idea of superheroes, I think. I think that even though The Boys does have a lot of satire, I think it works really well. But I think that um, I just think that there was a few things that they did with Stormfront that were just, maybe, I think they kind of shifted her a little too quickly, maybe, or they didn't. I'm not really sure how I feel about that yet. I think it worked for the most part, but I just think that there were just some moments that didn't quite, like, it was just a little too, okay, we're gonna go here with it now. Like, just a little too fast, I feel. But I feel like Queen Maeve was maybe the third best character in the season. I mean, I think that she kind of highlights a lot of the challenges that someone faces in in a situation like that, right? Like you have that selfishness that she wants to be with her girl, but then also like she wants to stay alive. Like she's afraid to fight back, right? Because not only does it affect her own life, but it affects the lives of the people she cares about, right? And like there's always that struggle that someone faces when they understand what they're doing is wrong, but they can't fight back because they're trying to protect not only themselves but the people they care about. And I think they handled that pretty well. I think that the relationship between Starlight and Huey, it was good too. I think the relationship between Starlight and her mother was done pretty well also. I mean, there's not really much that I can say negatively about the show. I think that there was one scene when we realized that that Stormfront murdered beat up this black kid, quite a long time ago. I think that that was handled a little weirdly, not because of necessarily the reveal itself, but more so because the acting was bad, like really bad. I think it was like so over the top, and it was just hard to take seriously. And again, I think if it was meant to be taken satirically, it works well, right? Acting is very contextual, right? The acting in a satire, the acting in Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a lot different than the acting in There Will Be Blood. And even the acting in There Will Be Blood, I think, is kind of over the top a little bit. It's not meant to be taken straight up. But yeah, I think that the season as a whole was really good. I think the characters were developed really well. The Deep and A-Train, and I think the show does a uniquely good job of kind of describing and changing and shifting and developing character motivations and kind of going through character arcs. The plot of the show, I mean, there's so much that I could talk about. I mean, Gus, I know his name isn't actually Gus, but that's just, he's Gus. He'll always be Gus, Giancarlo Esposito. But he plays the character very well, and I expect a lot from him in the following seasons. But these are just my quick thoughts on the season as a whole. I mean, there's so much that I could talk about. But I really, really like this season. I don't even know if I should give it a score. I mean, it's a season. I have to maybe rewatch it. Haven't really reviewed a TV series, but man, I really enjoyed this. The effects were great. A lot of the themes were I think illustrated very well, and the characters were stand out. I think the season finale was done like pretty much to perfection. It set up a lot of things. It ended a lot of things really well. I think it challenged a lot of characters, especially Billy and Homelander, but Billy particularly. I mean, he might have taken the cake as like the most well-developed character for me, because just seeing his motivations and like how he was so much on like connected to Becca, and then seeing that get pulled away from him, and just I'm very interested in seeing like how he's gonna move on from that, because he was so, that was like the only thing keeping him willing to be just like a good guy, and now that that's gone, like I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen next with him. But the same with all the other characters. There's a lot of shifts, there's a lot of changes. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the season. There's a lot more that I could have talked about, but it's great. And I really think that if you haven't seen the show, then you probably shouldn't be watching this. But I mean, it's fantastic. I don't really know. Should I give a score? I mean, if I did, it would be at least a 9.
That was totally wicked!
But that's my review of The Boys Season 2. Thanks for watching.